cut off all my vices. I stopped smoking, stopped drinking, I cut off all the drugs I was doing. I took drugs to fucking stay up all night working on my business. Like, I was literally doing all-nighters every single day. Like, getting no sleep, just drinking hella coffee, doing drugs, working on the business. I cut off all the friends who I was hanging out with, who every single time we would go out, they would want to smoke, they would want to do drugs, they would want to like get into bad activities that I just didn't associate with anymore. I basically at that point outcasted myself, right? So all my life I've been this outcast, but at that point I was like, no, fuck this, like I'm going my own path. No more trying to fit into different groups, no more of this, like I'm just doing my own thing. All right, what's going on, boys? It's your boy Max, and this video is just gonna be for documentation. I'm not gonna promote it anywhere. This is just really for me and to look back on, and for you guys to look back on once I make it, to look back at where I started. And I truly hope that this video can inspire some of you guys to just take that leap of faith and take a bet on yourself. But the purpose of this video, basically, I'm just gonna introduce myself from the beginning, because I know I posted some long form in the past, right? Some of my videos did decent, right? Decent for the amount of subscribers I have. I posted a lot of shorts, so some of you guys may know me from there. And I even posted my very first introduction video 3 years ago, April 22nd, 2022. And if you're here, if you were here since that day, I just want to say shout out to you. You know, shout out to you for being this entire way. But I just want to remake that introduction video right now, because when I made that video in 2022, I was 20 years old, right? And I was fresh off of just cutting off all my vices and just going all in on my personal development journey. And that was the first YouTube video like I ever made face to camera, and I was nervous as fuck. As like, I made the video private, but one day I'm gonna make that video public and you guys will see, like, I was just shaking and it was bad. So I want this video to be something more authentic and just to be exactly who I am, what position I'm in right now, and where I'm gonna go, right? And where I'm gonna take all of you guys with me, right? Because yes, this is my channel, but my purpose with this channel is to just build an entire tribe, build a community of guys who are like-minded, who want to really be the best version of themselves, who want to be the type of men that go against this whole modern men, soft boy era, and just really want to tap into their masculinity. But you see me now, right? I got decent looks, right? I'm in decent shape, but it wasn't always like this. So I'm gonna just start from the beginning. I grew up very skinny, right? I was around 120 pounds in high school. And in high school, when I just got into my high school, it was a kind of a new environment for me. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, by the way. I should have probably said that. But yeah, my name is Maxim, actually. You guys call me Max, right? Everyone calls me Max. And I wasn't born here. I was born in a little place called Baku, Azerbaijan. But I've been raised in Brooklyn, New York for basically my entire life. And at the moment I'm making this video, it's June 12, 2025. And I'm 23 years old right now, right? And growing up in New York was not easy. It's been pretty fucking tough, but it's made me into the man that I am now. And I had to learn a lot of things the hard way, right? Growing up, you know, I was always that kid that kind of went against what most people were doing. I always wanted to do my own thing. Like, ever since I was a little kid, I would rap, right? I used to make like videos of me singing and rapping, and that was always my dream, to sell out a stadium, to rap in Madison Square Garden, to just sell it out and just be a famous rapper, right? And I didn't understand why, right? I guess it was because of the lifestyle. Obviously, who doesn't want the money, the fame, the cars, the women, right? Everything that you can provide for your family with that sort of lifestyle. So that's what I believed my purpose was. And in fifth grade, I even did like a talent show where I sang, well, I rapped Drake in front of my entire not middle school, elementary school for the talent show. And so I went into middle school, and my middle school was full of kids who were nothing like me. Like these kids grew up in middle class, upper middle class families. And, I'm not gonna come on this and say that, I'm from the slums, because I'm not. But I'm definitely not, like, my family is not even really middle class. We're lower middle class to lower class, right? And, I'm super grateful for everything that my parents have done for me. They've came a long way, you know, as an immigrant family, and they came into this country not knowing how to speak English, and they definitely made something for themselves out here, and they provided the most that they possibly could for me growing up. But I was placed in this middle school, and all the kids in my school were these kind of like suburbanized kind of kids, and I just wasn't like that even as a kid, right? My friends were all like, multicultural, and like I was just not part of that type of culture that these kids were a part of. And so they outcasted me, right? They outcasted me in middle school. I was always kind of like just the outcast, like the black sheep. And I made music, right? That in middle school is when I dropped my first song on SoundCloud. Now, mind you, I was this 12-year-old kid, and I made my first song. I put on a pair of Logitech gaming headphones. I remember I went inside my sister's room, nobody was home, and I rapped a cover, right? A cover over You Will Even Know by, I forgot who sings it. It was like Future, couple other people, right? But I rapped the cover, so it was just like my 12-year-old voice rapping over the lyrics, right? Rapping over Future. And I posted that, and then I posted one song that was just by myself. It was like a freestyle that I wrote at 12 years old. Everybody in school found out about it, and everybody in school clowned me for it, right? There were like maybe one person, one or two people who were like, yo, good shit, bro. But everybody clowned me. They were like, who the fuck is this kid? He wants to be a rapper. What the fuck are you doing? And it got to the point where one time I was so fed up, I made a diss track against like 10 people from the school, right? I made a diss track at like 13 years old. I called people's names out on some fucking Tupac shit. But after that diss track, right? That basically made me like even more of an outcast. Nobody really fucked with me. I had a nice group of friends in middle school, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm very grateful for them. They were some good kids. But besides my little group of friends of like 5 people who I always hung out with, nobody else really fucked with me or my friends, right? But middle school was over, and I finally got to high school. And in high school was a different realm, right? And it was more so like, it was a rougher type of high school, right, that I went to. And I was exposed to a lot of things that, in middle school I wasn't used to, right? I started being exposed to, girls being pregnant at 14, guys doing drugs in the locker room, right? Gang bangs, all of that. Gang banging, wow, that's crazy. Gang banging and all of that. Nah, but I was just exposed to all this shit, right? And so I came into high school kind of like this outcast, just like a little bit, right? But as I became more myself, I built my own group of friends out there too. And I had this good group of friends, and basically we were known in school for being the fly kids, but it wasn't always like that. I got my first job when I was like 14 years old, and this was a below minimum wage job, right? I was working for pennies basically, but I used all of the money that I made from this job, and I was also doing a graphic design business actually at the time, where I learned how to use Photoshop, and I would sell my designs online, and so that's how I made my money, and I used every single paycheck to basically buy clothes for myself, and but let me rewind that, right? When I was in high school, bro, there was this girl I really liked, and she dubbed me. She dubbed me freshman year, and broke my heart. But I'm not gonna get too much into detail. I just want to let you guys know where I came from and where I am right now. So after she dubbed me, I got my job. I started spending all this money on clothes, and I completely reinvented my image in high school, and so did my friends. So we became from like this group that was just well known in high school as the fly kids. We all had like the expensive designer, right? Everyone kind of like thought we got money and shit. We scammed, but we didn't. We just worked, and so we kind of built up this persona, right? We kind of built up this persona of like being popular, right? Being high status in high school, but that led to some bad things because we ended up getting mixed up with the wrong crowds, right? And I started smoking when I was like 14 or 15 years old. I started smoking, right? I just went down a bad path. I lost my virginity at that age too. I just, everything that could be considered degenerate, I've done that at a young age. And, smoking led to other things, and I've done whole bunch of fucking drugs, done a whole bunch of stupid shit, right? And it was all because I let the environment that I was in, I let that shit control me. Like I let all the negative influences really take a toll on me. And so I was doing drugs. I was cutting class, right? I was involved in the game banging and shit like that. All the street activities. I got into fights. I got fucked up many times. I fucked people up too. But all of that was because of the environment that I was in, but because I let it affect me. And so I went from this guy who was known for like, being a bad boy, you know, and some people even called me a crackhead, right? I never did crack, but I did a lot of drugs. And, so people kind of looked at me weird for that, right? Because in my high school, the only drug that was really popular was smoking weed, but, you know, so the fact that I did that already kind of pushed me aside as well. But towards my senior year, I started becoming a little more awake. And once we graduated, that's when shit really changed because I was still working the same job. And so I'm working this job, and at this job, I'm doing deliveries. And so I have a lot of free time to just think. And every day I would work, I would just think. I would just think about how fucked up the situation that I was in was. And I literally just started to see my life go down this dark path, right? And, so this was around 2019 when I graduated high school, and then I got into college, right? And in 2020, we all know what happened. The virus hit, and schools went online. Now, I was still working because the place I was working was considered a essential job, right? And so I was still working. I was working more at that time. But everyone had this like free time to just like reflect on themselves. And so I was still known as like that popular bad boy kid from high school who like got money, dressed fly and shit, right? Got all the women in high school after, changing my image, right? But I was still out of shape. Like I was around 120, 120 pounds. And I was still smoking. And actually, when COVID hit, I started smoking, started doing everything else 10 times more, right? Everyone just fell into the bad habits, the vices 10 times more. And it was a very dark time for me. But I got to this point where I was like, something needs to change. And I was literally at a breaking point, right? I launched a business called a clothing brand called Faithful Fabrics. And once again, I don't want to get into too much detail on this, but with that business, essentially, like all the kids from school found out about it, and a lot of people who hated on me in high school and in the past, they actually ended up like supporting me, right? Or just acting like they support me, just for the simple fact that they wanted to be there just in case I make it, right? And eventually, what happened was I cut off all my vices. I stopped smoking, stopped drinking. I cut off all the drugs I was doing. I took drugs to fucking stay up all night working on my business. Like I was literally doing all-nighters every single day. Like getting no sleep, just drinking hella coffee, doing drugs, working on the business. I cut off all the friends who I was hanging out with, who every single time we would go out, they would want to smoke, they would want to do drugs, they would want to like get into bad activities that I just didn't associate with anymore. And so I basically at that point outcasted myself, right? So all my life I've been this outcast, but at that point I was like, no, fuck this, like I'm going my own path, right? No more trying to fit into different groups, no more of this, like I'm just doing my own thing. And I went down the rabbit hole of self-improvement. I started reading for like the first time, started actually buying books, read books, right? I fucking watched all the podcasts, right? In high school, that's when I found out about Steph is Cold, FedEx Fearless, Austin Dunham, AMS, Alpha Male Strategies, Ron Wills, all these guys, right? And they put me on that initial path towards self-improvement. Like my self-improvement journey did start in high school. That's when I started hitting the gym. That's when I started like reading books. Like I read the first book was like 48 Laws of Power, which that's like everybody's first book, right? But so I was like dipping my toes into the self-improvement waters in high school, but I wasn't going all in. And eventually when I graduated, it's like I got out of the like I took my toes out. I went down a darker path, and then eventually I hit my breaking point, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm going all in." And I went all in. You know, I stopped hanging out with those people. I stopped entertaining all these people, and I realized that once again, people started to look at me like I'm this fucking alien who, oh, look at Max. He thinks he's better than us now because he's like trying to improve, like he's trying to quit vices. And it's funny because all the kids who in high school they called me crazy for, you know, smoking, doing all this dumb shit. After high school, once I quit the drugs, they all got into those same bad habits. So I was trying to get better and they were regressing back. So it's funny how that works, right? But they were just like looking down on me, talking shit about me once again, nothing new. And talking about how like, oh, he thinks he's better than us, this and that. And the truth is that I didn't think I was better than anybody. I just, from a very early age in my life, I've always had this inner feeling in me that I'm meant for something greater. I always felt like I was the chosen one for something great. Like I don't know how to explain it. I just genuinely felt like I'm the chosen one. I'm the chosen one for something. I'm meant to be something fucking great. And once I went down those dark paths, I started to doubt myself for the first time. Like in high school, I had crazy confidence, right? I was getting all the girls, but then I graduated, life hit, right? And I'm like, yo, what am I really doing? What am I really doing out here, right? If I keep going down this fucking path, I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be on the street. My family's going to hate me. I was getting into arguments with my family. I was getting into arguments with my friends. I was like cheating on girls and like just treating women improperly, right? And all of these things started to compound. And I was like, yo, I need to change something, right? I need to change something because, and that's the moment that I chose. I chose to be the chosen one, right? And that's one thing I learned, like, the chosen ones are not born chosen. They decide to choose themselves. They choose themselves. They don't get chosen. They choose themselves. They decide to pick up that sword and fight and to be something greater, right? And so I was like, yo, there's no more. Like, if I keep going down this path, I'm just gonna be a complete fuck up, even more than I was already was. And so, once again, yeah, I quit all the smoking, I quit the drinking, I quit the vices, and I went all into my personal development. And that's when I started making self-improvement videos. And as I started making the videos, right, that's when I got serious about the gym in 2020. And, you know, if you guys see my Instagram, if you guys see my other videos, I have a pretty top tier physique. You know, it's nothing too crazy, but for someone who doesn't even bodybuild, I say I have a really good physique, right? And so in 2022, the same time that I started my YouTube channel, I also started working as a personal trainer, right? And I was doing in-person training sessions, and that just brought the sort of fulfillment that I never got before in my life, right? And that's when I really started to look back, and like I always thought that like making music was my passion, was my purpose, right? And as I started to journal for the first time and I started to really reflect on what's going on in my mind, I realized that it's not necessarily that making music was my passion. It's more so the effect that I wanted to have on people with my music, the effect that I wanted to have on people with my clothing brand. And now it's like the effect I can change people's lives by helping them with fitness, with self improvement. And once I started to see my clients get results, and once I started to see just like their entire lives just switch, just like mine was starting to, right? It hasn't fully switched yet, but it was starting to, and I saw the results. I was way different. The 21-year-old Max was way different than the 17-year-old Max, right? So I wanted to do that for others. I wanted to be the, I just wanted to change lives for the better. And I realized that that's what my purpose is, to actually just improve people's lives in some way. That if there's somebody out there, even if it's just two people, three people, one person who's watching this, who can get something out of this video and make that decision to fucking change their life, to get out of the hole that they're in and do something positive for them, to not, you know, you know what I mean? To not do that to themselves, right? To not give up on life. If I could do that to at least one person, then I feel fulfilled. And that's when I really started to feel it, when I was working as an in-person personal trainer. But over time, I started getting even more dialed in with my looks, even more dialed in with my image, even more dialed in with my fitness. And eventually, I created a new identity for myself. And so fast forward to around 2023, 2024. It was really like 2024, right? I switched to online coaching and I took all my clients online, right? I started doing work there and I got featured actually on FitX Fearless's channel. I'm sure most of you guys, if you're watching this, you know who he is. But I was featured on a few of his live streams and even in one of his videos. And basically, he was reviewing like my Instagram, my outfits, all of that shit. And he was telling guys like, yo, this is what you want your Instagram to look like. This is what you want your physique to look like. This is how you need to take care of yourself. And after that video, I got dozens and dozens of guys hit me up and ask me like, yo, how can I improve my looks? How can I improve my life? How can I quit my vices? How can I get in best shape of my life? And after that, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm meant to do. And I strongly feel that way to this day, right? So that's when I was like, this is what I need to do. I need to go all in on this business. And, I've been grinding since then, right? I've been grinding since then, working with my clients. But let me tell you guys a little bit about the situation that I'm in right now as I'm sitting here making this video. So I'm still nowhere near where I want to be, truthfully, with you guys. Nowhere near. I'm 23 years old, still living in Brooklyn. This bedroom, this is the same bedroom I've lived in for the past like 11 years, right? I live with my family, right? I provide, but I still live with my family. And, I spend thousands and thousands of dollars on mentorships, which have helped me greatly. But, I've invested a lot into my personal development. I've spent countless hours in the gym, countless hours in the kitchen, making my meals, making sure my physique is on point. I've had so many experiences just with women and, love, dating in general, right? Just because of the way I was able to present myself and conduct myself. But yeah, I'm making this video because right now I'm going all in. I'm going all in on YouTube, and I went all in on my coaching business a little while ago, not too long ago. I'd say just a couple of months ago, right? But right now, I'm making the commitment to really making more YouTube videos, long form videos, because I've been consistent on Instagram. I've been consistent with the short form. Most of you guys probably know me from that, but the only way that I'm truly gonna make the impact on men's lives that I want to make, the only way I'm truly gonna help men become the best version of themselves, become aligned with the type of men they're supposed to be, the only way I'm truly gonna have that sort of community, that sort of tribe, is if I build a relationship with you guys through long form content. And that's what I've been slacking on. Like, I started my YouTube channel 3 years ago. I've only posted a few videos, and I'm taking full accountability for the situation that I'm in right now. I have debts that I have to pay off. I have fucking whole bunch of shit that I have to pay off, whole bunch of shit that I have to do. But I'm going all in, right? I know that one day I'm gonna look back at this video and I'm gonna be like, damn, I came a long way. And, the Max who is living the type of life that I truly envision for myself, he's gonna look back at this video, and all of you guys are gonna look back and be like, damn, we all came a long way. But I know that it's all up to me. I could say all of this, and if I don't make another video after this, then I'm just a fucking bluff. But once again, this is all for documentation, and I just wanted to be raw with you guys, share a little background about who I am, what it is that I do, right? Nowadays, I'm a all-around self-improvement coach. I help guys return to how they're meant to be, right? Cut away from the vices, right? Attract the woman of their dreams, get in the best shape of their life, take care of their image, their presentation. And if you want to know more about that, it's on my Instagram. You can check it out. Just like, you could see a little bit more about me, where I came from, what I do. But if you're watching this and you're in a similar position that I was, right? Or maybe you're just trying to get started on your fitness journey, or maybe you've been in the gym for a few years and you have other aspects of your life that you need to work on. I just want you to know that, like, it's not enough to just be in great shape, and it's not enough to just attract a whole bunch of women. Because when I was attracting a whole bunch of girls and I was so skinny fat, right, it didn't do me any good, right? You need to excel in all aspects of your life. If you're fat but you got money, then you're still fat, right? You're still poor to me, right? That's real wealth, is when you could have that great physique, you can have great style, you can have plenty of money in the bank, and you have that sort of character about yourself. You have the mindset of a champion. You have the mindset of a warrior. You have the habits of someone who's disciplined and doesn't let life just drag them around. And you get to control your situation, but it all starts with what I'm doing right now, which is just taking full accountability for the situation that you're right now. Maybe you've had certain aspects in your life where you've excelled at, you've done really well for yourself, but it's never all fully gonna work out, and that's the best part of it, right? Life is this continuous game where we get to continuously level up every single aspect of our life, and that's what it's all about, right? That's what it's all about. So I invite you guys from this moment forward to just join my journey. I'm gonna be talking a lot about, some of the things that I have been talking about regarding dating, helping guys, not get used up by women, because we all know what happens when you get in great shape. You finally start getting some attention from a woman, and you get used for your attention, you get used for your resources, and I don't want any of that to happen to you guys. But as well, I'm also going to be talking about just holistic self-improvement, all of the things that have helped me excel in my physique, all of the things that helped me have crazy energy, high testosterone throughout the day, so I could focus on building my business, so I could focus on my work, right? Because that is super important as well, right? I mentioned that I'm not a bodybuilder, right? I don't train people in quote unquote bodybuilding, but the physique is a side effect of what I do. But I believe that you should focus on just being optimized for life, right? Be the type of man that can take charge in every single aspect. Be the type of man that, your diet can give you the type of clarity and focus that you need to get through the day effectively, have consistent energy, right? And have a great physique, right? Why can't you do all of that? And so that's what this is all about, right? Just being the best man and being the type of man that you were really meant to be, right? High energy, high testosterone, clarity, purposeful, knows how to conduct himself with other people, high social confidence, is great with women, knows how to present himself, and is truly just the best version of himself. That's what it's all about, right? It doesn't matter what level you're on, there's always somebody who's on a higher level than you in something. And that's why I've humbled myself in many aspects. Like, I've gotten mentors, right? I've spent, like I said, thousands of dollars on mentorships, because I recognize that the only way I can get to where I want to go is if I learn from those who have done it in the past. And so I hope that with the videos, with the value that I provide for you guys on this channel, that I can provide, that I can show the path, right? I can lead the path for some of you guys who want to do some of the things that I have done and that I continue to do, right? And I hope this video can really just be an inspiration to others. And yeah, I don't really got much more to say on this, but I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, stay dangerous.